I'm Ryan,
And I'm Nick.
and you're listening to Going Offsides, presented by the Lacrosse Collective on the Lacrosse All Stars Podcast Network.
Miles?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you? This is Nick, and then I have my co-host here, Ryan.
How you doing, man?
How you guys doing? Good, thank you.
Oh, man.
All right. So, first of all, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, and we both appreciate anybody that makes the decision to be in the military and attend West Point. So we just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man.
So, it's not a really big secret that both your parents went to West Point. So was there ever a doubt that you were going to attend West Point yourself?
Not really. In fact, my parents, after I committed and everything, they tried to talk me out of it, only to play devil's advocate to make sure that it was kind of my own decision and something that I wanted to do for me, and not to make them proud or feel like I had to do it because they win or something. So ever since I can remember, from probably about the age of 2 years old, I always wanted to go to West Point, and I always wanted to play lacrosse.
Well, I mean, kind of going in that direction. I mean, obviously, West Point is such a prestigious place, such a prestigious program with so much history. Can you talk a little bit, what's it like playing for Coach Alberici, and what kind of impact has he had on you, and what kind of impact did he have on you in terms of the recruiting process, making you feel like you obviously want to go to West Point, continue my lacrosse career, and what's it like being an Army lacrosse player, and what does that mean to you?
I mean, Coach A is one of the best men I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, he treats me and all the other guys like as his sons, and he's just one of the best mentors and leaders I've ever seen. Even with all of the amazing leaders I'm around in the Army, I mean, Coach A really sticks out, and just the way he leads the program and treats not only you, but then your extended, like your own family, as his extended family. And so I think that's really special, and a testament to kind of his character and the type of man he is, just how welcomed he always makes you feel. And I mean, with that said, he holds you accountable, and you got to be on your A game all the time, and he kind of expects that from you, and will let you know when you aren't living up to it. And he really pushes you and strives you to be the best version of yourself. And I think that also is kind of what it's like being at West Point as well. You're surrounded by so many talented people that you kind of realize that you're not always going to be the best at everything, and not always going to be succeeding all the time, and you learn a lot from the failures, I think, that you have at West Point, whether that be failing a test or a physical test, or out at practice or something. You may not have the best day. I think they kind of put you through all these different tough situations where you really have to learn how to bounce back from all these different challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day basis. And so that was kind of what it was like being at West Point. And then as far as being an Army lacrosse player, I mean, I'd always kind of grown up around Army lacrosse, with my dad playing in the early 90s. And I called all of his teammates like my uncles. And so I kind of knew going in, to an extent, how close the program was. And I think that's really unique to West Point and maybe the other service academies, that just kind of the different challenges you go through every day forms a bond that you may not always get at other places. And I think that's really special and unique to being an Army lacrosse player, is all the relationships that you form. It's a brotherhood, and we talk about family more than we talk about lacrosse. And so I think that's pretty special. And I met my best friends for the rest of my life, and guys that'll be in my wedding or be godparents and all that stuff. And I think it's pretty unique place to go and play lacrosse. So.
Fantastic. Ryan, did you have something to add to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of all that, I mean, you're talking about how, and it's no secret, you guys were having a real special year prior to, obviously, COVID kind of disturbing that for everybody, not just the service academies. Can you kind of talk us through kind of that whole situation? I mean, you guys were on a tear. It seemed like the season was going to be, one for the ages for you guys. um Once COVID hit and everybody kind of made that decision to kind of shut down and cancel the rest of the season, how was that for you guys? I mean, as a program, what were some of the things that you guys went through, and how did you deal with it? And then also too, it's unlike other institutions. Were you guys able to stay on campus? Did they send you home? Was West Point kind of like its own bubble? I think that's something that a lot of people probably would be interested about.
Yeah, so we were up here. It was the week leading up to the Lehigh game, and we were our school was on spring break. So the lacrosse team was staying at school, together. You go and stay in the same barracks. We call it dorms barracks, but you go and stay in the same one together, and it's monitored and all that stuff. But so we were already all up here. We were the only people here. So we were doing, I think we practiced in the morning, and then we kind of saw on our phones that the Patriot League had canceled, their events and their season. But West Point being a little different, they make exceptions. So we kind of held out hope a little bit, and then we had practice in the afternoon, and we more and more of the different conferences you started to see more cancellations, and so we started to get kind of nervous, but we had dinner that night at Coach's house. He has us over for dinner over spring break and everything. And he kind of brought us into the kitchen and told him that he got the official word that our season was being canceled. And, as a senior, that was pretty tough to hear because this was before, obviously, I was drafted to play professionally. I kind of thought my lacrosse career was over right then and there. And so that was a little tough to process, with my other teammates, my other seniors specifically, just knowing that it was kind of done. That was hard. And then also the questions about eligibility and all that stuff. Being a service academy, it's unique in a lot of ways, but it's also there's no fifth-year players, barring any extenuating circumstances. But you have to once you get here, you graduate in 4 years, and there's no fifth years. And so we, not only did I lose my senior season, but all the other guys, lost, whether it be their freshman season, sophomore, junior, and knowing that they would never get it back. And so that was tough. And, like you said, we were having such a great year. We were so excited with how things were going and how well we were playing, and really thought we had national championship aspirations. And that was also something that was pretty difficult to get over, just because it felt like we were cheated out of making history and having our part in such a storied program. And so it was tough, but really just knowing that I wasn't going to have time with that team anymore, or in that program is probably was the hardest part to deal with, because I grew up, for me, it was a childhood dream to play there and everything. And so knowing that I only had that time and it was cut short, it took me a while to get over. And luckily I had the chance to play for the Denver Outlaws this summer, and so my lacrosse career wasn't yet over, but it was never going to be the same, never being able to wear that Army jersey again. But we just came together and spent that time together and tried to stay as close as possible.
And so you had, your freshman, sophomore year, obviously, Army is a deep program. You have to definitely earn your way onto the field. Junior year, you kind of came out and just went on a tear. You had something like 7 hat tricks that season. When you were a sophomore, did you foresee your future ending up in, professional lacrosse in any way?
I mean, I knew that I had a lot of work to do to get on the field, and at that time, professional lacrosse wasn't my goal, or wasn't really on the radar. Yeah, 'cause for me, I just wanted to play and make an on the field contribution to, our team, and so I really focused on trying to do the little things. And for me, it was never the scoring that I had an issue with, or why I didn't see the field as much. It was kind of the other things, like riding or ground balls. And so what kind of set me apart and allowed me to play really my last 2 years was the extra things that Coach A really told me to focus on, and that was the hustle plays and the ground balls and riding to the midfield line. And I think before I hadn't really taken that step to do those things. And so once I did, I was then allowed to have my shot and didn't really look back after that. And so that's a big thing in our program. We have amazing players on so many levels and such a deep depth chart that you have to do those little things to kind of set yourself apart to get your shot to play. And Coach A really harps on that, like the plays that might not really make the stat book or the highlight reel is what sets us apart. And I think that's what sets us apart on the field with other teams too, is how much we focus on those important things. But yeah, I mean, once I kind of broke out and had my junior year and then going on to my senior year, I really started to look forward to having a chance to be able to play, whether that was MLL, PLL, or NLL. I just wanted to be able to keep playing. And so I think it was beginning of the season, I was on a watch list for the draft for the leagues. And then that really sparked my interest. And having guys like Johnny Surdick from the year before, and then guys like Adam Fullerton, Tom Pileski, and John Glesner in just years before that have gone on to play, I knew it was possible, and really I started to kind of look forward to it.
Okay, so your season gets cut short, and no one can plan for that. But like you said, you were soon after drafted. What was that feeling like to know that you might have a chance to maybe play at least one more time before you get into the heart of your service?
I mean, I was super excited. It was a big deal for me and my family, and I knew that I was gonna represent the program to the best of my ability, and just to have that chance to go out and show kind of my skill set, but then also be a platform to show that it is possible to be able to follow, whatever lacrosse dreams you may have, but also serve your country. So it is different, obviously, with other sports that professional lacrosse isn't a full-time job. Mm-hmm. And so it is a unique ability for us and me and my teammate Tom Rigney and then Johnny Surdick to be able to serve and also play lacrosse, and that the lacrosse doesn't take away from our military service. So we are like full-time active duty officers and also get to play lacrosse. And so it's definitely unique. And I knew that I had the ability to fulfill two dreams, because I did have a dream to go to West Point and serve in the military, and then also a dream to play lacrosse at the highest level. So.
That's awesome, man. I mean, so now we're shifting gears. We've kind of gone through, your time at West Point, and now we're going through you getting drafted. I mean, now you're drafted. Obviously, COVID throws a wrench into kind of everything, but kudos to the MLL. They do a great job putting, the kind of the championship setup together. Walk us through kind of life in the bubble. What was that like? I mean, it's kind of got to be somewhat surreal. I mean, you go from obviously playing at the Division I level, the highest level of, at the Division I level. Now you're going into the MLL and you're playing alongside some of these guys that, are legends of the game, like John Grant Jr., those type of guys, but you're also in a bubble. And you're also playing in front of no fans. So can you kind of talk us through kind of what that was like? And then also too, I mean, like you said, you're an active service member. So, what did you kind of have to do on your end to make sure that you were able to kind of get that full-time off so that, you could participate?
Yeah, because you were a late addition to the roster, if I recall. Like, you didn't have, I guess, permission right away to play in the tournament, right?
Yeah, so there was a new law that allowed academy graduates to pursue a professional career in their respective sport. And so what that did was allowed guys, I had a couple classmates who are now at NFL training camps, and one guy signed with the Cincinnati Reds. And so that allowed that, and then another guy who's playing hockey, but that allowed them to pursue their sports because that is a full-time job. And so what they did was they had to essentially not commission as an officer right away, and kind of be in the inactive reserve and allow them to pursue their professional sport career. And so what that didn't highlight was a situation with like professional lacrosse where it's technically, I think, designated as semi-professional because it's not full-time, and it's a little bit different with contracts and all that stuff. And so that was kind of an awkward, or it didn't really say yes to allow me and Tom Rigney to go play, and it didn't really say no, but the way that at first they were reading it was they didn't know if it was going to be allowed to be approved for us to actually go play. And so without the support of the superintendent, General Williams, the head JAG officer, which is the military attorney, Colonel Smoot, and Brad Brown, who is one of the lacrosse operations guys, and then our athletic director, Mike Buddy, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to actually play. And they really spearheaded that process of trying to find essentially the right wording to be able to allow us to play, because we don't have to not commission and we still get to serve on a full capacity. That they kind of had to find out how to get it approved, and without their support and without their willingness to find that, we weren't going to be able to play. And so that's why it took a little bit longer than most, and that's why we were late additions, is because they were trying to find out how to get that approved. And so they eventually did, and that was what allowed us to go play. And then showing up to the bubble, I mean, I was kind of on the bottom of the totem pole again, you know, and I hadn't been like that in a couple years. So I was nervous, you know, I wanted to go out and prove myself and have the ability to contribute and make contributions to a team that had made it to the MLL championship the year before, and had a guy like John Grant Jr. and guys like Ryan Lee and Chris Islanian, who were just amazing players, and the list goes on. But I was nervous because, you know, I wanted to earn my spot and earn my playing time. And those guys did an amazing job of welcoming me and the other rookies, and also the newer additions to the Outlaws in. And being on such close teams at West Point, I didn't know what to expect with a professional team, because, you know, you aren't together all the time and you don't always have time to practice or hang out. And so I didn't know exactly what to expect. And I mean, and it blew all of my expectations out of the water. Those guys were great. And the team was close. You know, we ate pretty much every meal together and hung out, because once we got there and we knew we were negative, you know, we could have a little bit more freedom to have meals together and hang out. And so, I mean, it was really awesome the way that they welcomed us in, and they treated us like as if we had been with the organization for 10 years. And so it was great. Life in the bubble for me wasn't as hard to adjust to, just because the environment that I had the past 4 years at West Point, you're almost in a bubble yourself, because you can't leave as much, or you might not have, you know, the amenities of a normal house or whatever. So that wasn't as much of a shock or anything to me, but it was really just great being around the guys and seeing how they treated one another and how the organization is. And I couldn't have been luckier being a part of the Outlaws, and my experience at the bubble was great, and it allowed me, you know, to be able to continue to do what I love. So it was really great being a part of that team.
So being an offensive player, I'm not sure who your idols are. I'm sure John Grant Jr. is one of them. You play your first game, you get your first goal, and it happens to be from who other than John Grant Jr. What was it like to get your first goal of your career from somebody that, you know, is more than likely an idol of yours?
Yeah, I mean, growing up watching him play, I mean, the stuff he does with the lacrosse stick it's magic when you see it. And so I had scored the goal, and at first I was so nervous and so excited that I didn't even realize what really happened. It was kind of just surprising, really. And then I ran over to the sideline and kind of sat there, and you know, the game resumed, and I was like, wait a second, like John Grant Jr. just had the assist on my first professional goal, and that kind of sank in, and it was kind of like just a moment where you just have to take in, and it was really cool. And I hadn't really noticed it at first, and then when I really realized it, I was kind of blown away. I was like, that doesn't really happen. It'd kind of be like, you know, LeBron James or Michael Jordan passing you the ball on your first shot, like in the NBA or something. So it it was pretty surreal to realize that the assist came from him, and then it was really special.
Kind of staying on that topic, I mean, his kind of role with the team is so unique. I mean, you haven't really seen it since, I mean, Gary Gait was the player coach with the Bayhawks all those years ago. What was it like, having Junior as your offensive coordinator? And I mean, obviously the pro game is much different than the college game. I mean, now he's taken that role with Hopkins. I mean, how do you see him transition in? I mean, he was at Air Force obviously, but how do you see him, transitioning now kind of towards the tail end of his pro career, kind of getting into, being the OC at Hopkins?
Well, I mean, at first it was different because he does coach while he plays, and so not only it was different, but it was also really cool.
Yeah.
And I learned, and so you were kind of playing, and then you realize he's also coaching at the same time while he's on the field, and that it was great. And then when he wasn't playing, and he was that full-time kind of coach.
Mhm.
I mean, he's not only is he great on the field, but he's like a genius off the field. Just the plays he would draw up on a whiteboard during a timeout or immediate timeout or in between quarters. I mean, that's like a full playbook that he just has rolling in his mind at all times. And so I mentioned the assist and how cool that was playing with him, but it was also really, really amazing being able to learn from him and just kind of know what goes on in the head of a kind of lacrosse genius. And so I think that transition for him is going to be seamless to Johns Hopkins. And I think he's going to do an amazing job there. And just kind of the stuff that he knows as a coach has been great to learn from. And so that I really enjoyed that just as much as I enjoyed being able to play with him. It's just all the stuff that I learned from him over the week.
Yeah, it's really neat. Like the one kind of, I mean, there's a lot of images and things that stick out from that week, obviously from our standpoint being a fan, but kind of seeing, I guess, I don't know if it was a media timeout or whatever, but, kind of seeing him draw up plays with Gatorade cups, on a folding table, in between timeouts. I was like, that's pretty cool. It's like,
He makes it happen.
that's that Canadian creativity, I guess.
Yeah, he's kind of like, look at him like a mad scientist,
Yeah.
The gears are turning in his head and he just sees the game so well that he can turn, whether it was lacrosse balls during practice or gloves or whatever, he's just kind of seeing it like happen. And it was really, really cool to be able to learn from that.
So shifting away from lacrosse for a second. So obviously the tournament's over now. What's next for you in your military career? I mean, as much as you're allowed to say, are you off traveling somewhere? Or do you have to do some more training or what's that for, what's that like for people that aren't really familiar with the military?
Yeah. So right now I have the unique ability. I'm working in the athletic department back here at West Point, and I'm specifically attached to the strength and conditioning team. But it's a 6-month assignment where former athletes have an opportunity to kind of be a grad assistant almost with the team and or with their respective programs. And so me and 3 of my other teammates are renting a house up near school. And so that's another first for me that I haven't had, because you live on post or you live in the barracks all 4 years. And so right now I have the awesome ability to work in the athletic department and also with various things that West Point has that we might have to work for, like helping out with summer training right now for the other cadets, and then whether it be other things during the school year kind of. But I have that for 6 months, and then I'll be down at Fort Benning, Georgia, for kind of my training for my specific branch in the Army. I'll be an armor officer, so I'll go down to Fort Benning for another 6 months and kind of become an expert in that field, which is primarily tanks and cavalry scouts. And so I'll learn that, and then I'm off to Fort Riley, Kansas after that. But I have unique ability to be able to kind of continue to stay around sports right now and learn from the different, like another side of the Army that is West Point and the athletic department and everything. And then I'm off down to Georgia to learn even more about the Army and kind of start that exact career.
Okay. Yeah, my dad, I spoke with my dad before this interview because I was actually an Army brat. I was born on an Army base in Germany, and then I lived in Fort Meade for a little bit. So I asked him,
Okay, yeah.
what do you know about the tank guys? And he's like, all I know is back when I was in the Army, you had to be pretty nuts to be in a tank when they have like uranium shells and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to translate to this interview, Dad, but he said you have to be
Yeah.
a special kind of crazy to be in a tank.
Yeah. I mean, the technology that they have now is, I mean, it's second to none with, I mean, around the globe. And I know that they just kind of released a new tank and that the Army's using. I don't know much about it, but I know those things are a lot safer than they might have used to be. And so for me,
Yeah.
it was, I just thought they were cool, and it was something that I wanted to do. And so I pursued it.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate, you doing that in your service. As far as, I know it's very unclear for you because of the path you've chosen, but as far as, your future in lacrosse, do you hope or foresee yourself being involved in the future in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. It really boils down to as long as it doesn't interfere with my duties as an officer, and so it's based on kind of the schedule that my unit has, whether it be deployment or training. But it is unique because lacrosse is, I mean, aside from this unique year, it is a weekend thing to be able to play, and so as long as it is approved by my commanders and it doesn't interfere with my Army responsibilities, then I would absolutely love to continue playing and continue to have the opportunity to play. So
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you think that the fact that this year it was, kind of compressed into like a 1 week commitment, do you think that helped you get permission in some way because you weren't really stretched out over the summer with commitments? It was just for 1 week?
I'm not really sure, just because in years past there haven't been an issue. It was more just
Okay.
the new law that allowed for the other guys in other leagues to play, that they had to find the right way to approve it for us. And so it might have helped, and it also might have helped that we were recent graduates, and at that time we were still on graduation leave. So I think that it really is up to the unit commanders. And like I said earlier, without the help of Lieutenant General Williams, who's the superintendent, and the JAG, Colonel Smoot, Brad Brown, and the athletic director, Mr. Mike Buddy, without them kind of doing everything they can to let us play, we wouldn't have had the opportunity. So hopefully, in the future, everything lines up and I'll be able to play for the organization and continue to have that career on the field.
Here's my last question. It's kind of, it's just a hypothetical question. All right. You get, and he's laughing because, he thinks it's going to be something crazy, but this is something I know it's important to you. And you kind of alluded to the other thing. You get one more crack at Navy, or you get to play for a national championship. Which one would you choose?
Oh, definitely. That's tough, but I guess Navy in the national championship would be best case scenario.
I knew it. I knew it.
I mean, that's tough. I think maybe,
I think you gave the best answer. I think you gave the best answer. I think that would, I'll tell you what, that's what this country needs right now. That would be the best national championship of all time.
Yeah, I think so too. It'd definitely be probably one of the most intense games.
It's a special game. Haven't been to a couple, and haven't seen games up at Mikey. I don't think there's a better place to see a game, in my opinion, and that's just the New Yorker in me. But you hit the nail right on the head, man.
Now, were you conflicted at all having to play at Navy for an entire week?
Actually, no. Besides Mikey Stadium, that's my favorite stadium, I think, in the country to play. And my little brother right now is currently in their summer training program at the Naval Academy Prep School, and he's going to play lacrosse. He's going to play lacrosse for Coach Amplo down at Navy. And so I think it was pretty cool to be able to have that chance to play on that field. And it is such a unique stadium, and you kind of look around when you're playing and you see all the different locations of these Navy battles and stuff. And it's just a really cool place to play. And, I'm friends with guys who have played at Navy or are there now. And you're really close to those guys except for one day a year. And so it's really unique, I think, to be able to play at such a cool stadium and such a great place. And then having the family connection with my little brother was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. Coach Amplo brought in a really good recruiting class too, as well. I mean, that his class is going to be, they're going to be good for they're going to be good for a while.
Yeah, I'm definitely, torn to root for my little brother or root for the, as an alumni. So it's going to be some interesting years, definitely in the house, but, I couldn't be more proud or excited of him. And so I think it's just really cool.
Well, Miles, we really appreciate your time and you coming on the podcast and everything you're doing for the country. So, we wish you the best of luck, and we really hope to see you on a lacrosse field again in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It was awesome getting to speak with you, man. Be safe, and thank you again for everything that you're doing for this country.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Take it easy, Miles.
All right. You too.
That's it for another episode of Going Offsides, presented by the Lacrosse Collective. Please follow us at Lax Collective on Twitter, or go to our website, thelacrossecollective.com. Stay tuned for more episodes.